Lieu earlier tonight. Congressman Lieu, your exchange with Mueller produced clearly one of the more surprising responses from him of the day. Were you surprised by his first answer this morning and then by his walk back later in the day?
I was not surprised by his first answer because it's Special Counsel Mueller himself who always brings up the OLC opinion, saying that he was instructed he could not indict a sitting president. And I simply walked Special Counsel Mueller through the three elements of obstruction of justice. I showed that they were all met, and then I asked him, basically, is the reason you didn't indict Donald Trump because of that opinion? And he said yes. It was perfectly logical, and it made perfect sense.
So, because when he walked it back, he seemed to kind of lay the blame on you for the way you framed the question rather than himself on the way he answered it. Do you think he didn't understand what you had said, or do you think he actually did understand it and his original answer was what he really thought, but he just didn't want to say that publicly?
I believe he fully understood my question. It was a logical extension of me getting him to establish that the three elements of obstruction of justice were all met. And I think it's what he actually believes. I think he may have walked it back because he understood that what that means is we got a felon in the White House. And that's what the hearing showed today, that Donald Trump committed multiple acts of obstruction of justice. Those are felonies. Now, what the American people and Congress chooses to do with that information, we'll see in the next few days, the next few weeks.
So when he later says that, they reached no conclusion, and they reached no conclusion because they knew, because of the OLC guidelines that they were operating under from the beginning, you think in his mind he did reach a conclusion, and he revealed that?
Absolutely, because he actually lays out the three elements of obstruction of justice. He said yes to the first two. And then on the third element, which is intent, I simply read him what he wrote in his report. He said that there was substantial evidence of corrupt intent. That meets all three elements. So you can call it whatever you want, but every person who looks at it, including over 1,000 former prosecutors, calls it obstruction of justice.
There has been a lot of surprise and discussion of how Mueller performed today. It was clearly very different than he had done, in years past. I think this is the first time in 6 years or so that he was testifying. Did it surprise you, and do you think it muted what Democrats hoped the impact of this would be?
I would have liked if Special Counsel Mueller were more verbose, but he answered yes and true to a number of devastating facts. And if the American people are watching this, the only conclusion they conclude is that the Russians systematically and sweepingly interfered in our 2016 elections. The Trump campaign embraced that interference, and then the president committed multiple acts of obstruction of justice to stop the